everybody. This is Saline County Hardliners with you again. And tonight we got I'm Keith Kellum. We got co-host Kevin Bradshaw with us again.
How's it going?
We got Randy Sams, who is the chairman of our first Arkansas First Committee, which is a kind of the executive branch of the Arkansas First News in our organization there. And he's been involved with politics for a long time, ran for JP District 9. We're going to be hammering hammer today. What's going on with Kim Hammer? What? Okay. I'm going to give a quick synopsis and then I'm going to hand it off and let Randy talk about some bills there because he hangs out the Capitol a lot. Hammer's running for Secretary of State. He's term limited out of his District 16 Senate seat, and he is running for Secretary of State. Well, that means he doesn't have to worry about running for Senate again. He just has to worry about statewide election of Secretary of State, and he's not being primaried so far, and he needs to be primaried. I don't know if he's got anybody. I'm not even worried about the general election. The primary is going to be the big one. So I don't know what he's doing. It looks like he's trying to consolidate his position, and every one of his bills we're going to talk about pretty much does not think about the people. It thinks about big business, donors, and it thinks about consolidating power in the Secretary of State's office because he's adamant, probably one of the most adamant people against paper ballots in the state. And we're going to start off. He had hey, Randy, we got, SB 207 was kind of the first one he got out. He's got a sling of them about the same thing about that concern the Secretary of State's office of powers powers, giving them more power. So what, Randy, on SB 207, what we got on that? Now that's passed, correct?
Yeah, all of them have pretty much passed. I mean, they've all been passed out of the Senate committee, House committee, Senate floor, House floor.
What's it doing to us as citizens of Saline County?
Well, I mean, let me say this first, Keith. You know, I've known Senator Hammer. You know, when I first met him, he was Kim Hammer. I've known Senator Hammer for probably 20-something years. My boys, whenever they were playing upward basketball, upward flag football through Holland Chapel, and he was on staff at Holland Chapel. Anyway, you know, he's been in down in Little Rock as a House rep until he termed out of that and then became a senator. Now he's a senator and he's about to term out of his Senate seat in 2026. And as you've already stated, he has announced that he is running for Secretary of State. All right. So here's what I look at. You know, we've had situations, Keith. You know, if we look at Saline County.
Hey, let me interrupt you 1 second. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say that Kim Hammer is a nice fellow. He's a good guy. I mean, he's not it's nothing personal what we're going to talk about to him, but his politics right now just is not for the people. Continue on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can agree on that 100%. I mean, it's what I look at is that we've had conversations with politicians for the last 3 or 4 years, and we understand that we're not going to all agree on 100% of everything. Okay, my big deal is this: is if you are elected and you go to Little Rock to represent your district. All right. Senator Hammer is representing a district. Their House reps are, you know, we got Paul Childress, RJ Hall, Furman, you know, we go down the list. So, but you look at that and I understand that they're up there and they have to play that political game, whether we want to admit it or not. There's things you have to do to get, you know, your bills passed, to get things done. But where I draw the line is where when I see either a senator or a House rep passing a bill, sponsoring a bill, co-sponsoring a bill that is taking away the freedoms of the people of Saline County or the citizens of Arkansas. Okay. And I call them the hammer bills, and we are going to get hammered, unfortunately. But you can't really look at these bills individually, even though that's the way they're passed.
Yeah, right.
You have to look at them as a package, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just look at 207 by itself, you're thinking, well, this is a powder puff. Why are we getting all upset about 207? Because basically 207 just basically says that it requires a canvasser to disclose that that petition fraud is a Class A misdemeanor. So if I'm sitting in the Kroger parking lot and Keith Kellum comes walking up to me and I've got a petition in my hand and I want you to sign it, I have to make sure that, Mr. Kellum, before you sign this, I got to make you understand that if you sign this, you forge somebody's name on that, it's a Class A misdemeanor. Do you understand that? Okay.
That sounds like a threat right there.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you just look at that, okay, I just got to tell you, Kevin, hey, you can't go and write Keith's name on here. Okay. You could be charged with a Class A misdemeanor. Okay. So let's go back. Here's whenever I went to committee, and I spoke against these bills. What you have to look at, folks, is that we already have initiatives. We already have laws on the books in the Arkansas State Constitution of 1874. You already have Arkansas Code on the books that basically do exactly what these bills do. Okay. So why do we need these bills? Why were these bills brought up? If it was an issue with people doing something wrong when it comes to petition or canvassers doing something wrong, the way I look at it is, if you look at the Arkansas Constitution, Article 5, initiative and referendums, if you look at Arkansas Code 7, elections, you look at 07-09-103 and -108, it talks about what you can and cannot do as a petitioner, as a canvasser. If I sign someone else's name, then I'm forging someone else's name. It's already on the books.
And we've been using this. Code. We've been using this for years and years and years.
Yeah, exactly. But if it was already there, so what was the issue? So, I mean, Keith, Kevin, if it's already there, the issue must be that Secretary of State or whoever has the right to enforce those rules and laws that are already on the books aren't doing their job, right?
Right.
Would you agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
And really, if you look at this, if any of your listeners, those joining right now, if you were there when these bills were presented in the Senate committee, the ones that were in favor of this bill, the majority of them gave their testimony based on what took place last year with the abortion amendment. Okay. And everything was really ugly. Oh man, it was really bad. They did this, they did that, they did this, they lied about this, they didn't say this. But when you look at all of that and you go back to the laws that's in the Constitution and you go back to Arkansas Code, guess what? There's already laws on the books that if these people broke the rules like they said they did, why weren't they charged with any misdemeanors or any felonies? Okay.
And the paper balance was part of it too. The paper.
Yeah.
Balance.
Well, no, here's my deal. That's what was being used. And I'm going to say this. I really feel this is in my opinion. Okay. And I have a right to my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like that Mr. Hammer used the abortion amendment people to get everybody fired up. But his real objective was what took place last
year
in Saline County, when we had enough signatures to get paper ballots on to be voted on, right?
In essence, he was adamantly against both those things. He is always adamantly against any kind of indoctrination of children. He is on the right side of the coin always on that. But he also hates the paper ballot issue. So those two things he did not want to see in.
Well, I mean, I'll say this, it's not his right to make that decision.
Right.
He doesn't have the right to make that decision. Okay. Right. When I was running for JP, I had numerous conversations with some of the existing JPs because they all knew where we stood, and we knew where they stood because we knew who was backing them and who was behind them. Okay. But my argument was this: look, I will stand up for paper ballots. I believe in paper ballots. But if I would have been elected as a JP, just because I like paper ballots or I wanted paper ballots, whose decision was it really? Is it me as a JP Is it you as a JP? No, it's the people of Saline County.
Right.
So if the people of Saline County, if we were able to take it and put it on the ballot and the people of Saline County wanted paper ballots, who am I as a JP, even if I didn't want them, who am I to say, no, I know you people want it, but we're not going to do it.
Because when we were knocking doors, most of them wanted it that I talked to. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I say that because to me, I feel like what was used as the smokescreen was the abortion amendment, what took place last year, but the real objective was what took place here in Saline County last August,
because
September,
it could
October.
happen again. It'll probably happen again. And
well, yeah, and we'll talk about that. We had enough signatures for it to be on the ballot, okay? But we'll talk about this later. But that's what 207 is about, okay?
Right.
So remember 207, it just basically says that as a canvasser, I have to explain to you that if you write somebody's name on there that you're not, it can be a Class A misdemeanor. Then we go to 208, and again, another powder puff bill as far as I'm concerned. If you look at them individually, but it's to amend the law concerning referendum petitions to view a canvasser to request photo ID. Okay.
Yeah,
so
each
now,
one kind of goes. Each one gets tougher
exactly.
and tougher.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
You drive the nail a little bit deeper in with each one of these bills. Okay. That's why I said you can't look at these individually. You got to look at them as a package. So now I have to tell you that if you sign wrongly, it could be a Class A misdemeanor. Then I also have to say, well, Keith, I know you personally, but before I can let you sign this petition, or Kevin, before you can sign this petition, I got to see your driver's license. Okay. Well, you may have just run into Walmart, left your driver's license in your pickup truck out in it's 105-degree temperature, and you went in to get a gallon of milk. You got a $20 bill in your pocket. You don't need a driver's license. Are you going to stop and say, gosh, Randy, yeah, hold on just a second. Let me run back to the truck. No, you're not going to do that. Okay.
I'm going to let my eggs come back out and leave.
Exactly. And I've spoken to people that says, if I don't know you, how likely am I to actually just give you my driver's license? I mean, think about it. Okay. Yeah. What are you doing? If I called somebody up on the telephone and just say, hey, give me your driver's license number, are they going to be stupid enough to give it to me over the telephone without knowing what I need it for? But that's 207. Then you add 208.
And there's not much of that happens. I mean, there's not much of that. That's not the problem. That's never been a problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at this and you heard some of the stories, I mean, the big thing was, again, the abortion amendment. The people that were pro-life, and all three of us on here, and probably the majority of people listening tonight or whenever you're listening to this, are going to agree with us. We are pro-life. We do not support abortions. We were against the abortion amendment. Okay.
But they have the right to have
they have the same right that we do for petitioning for paper ballots as they do for the abortion amendment. Okay. But there were some things that people said were not done, that it was, they were allowing people to sign with nobody standing there or whatever. I wasn't there. But again, guys, you got to remember, Arkansas Constitution, Article 5, Arkansas Code, Section 7, under elections, all of this is already covered. So that's 207, 208, and then we skip to 211. And basically 211 says it requires the canvasser to submit an affidavit before signatures can be counted. Well, if you guys did any petitions, you know that on the petition, what is on the bottom of the petition? An affidavit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can't sign that affidavit unless I'm sitting in front of who? A notary, right?
Right. Yeah, it has to be notarized, yes.
So if I turn in 10 petitions with 100 signatures on them, each one of those affidavits have to be filled out with my name and my address, and then I sign it, and I have to sign that affidavit in front of a notary. Well, now there's making it, you have an additional affidavit that you have to fill out. Not just the one on the petition, but now you have additional affidavit. Okay. So when you look at all of these together, you start to understand that under the Arkansas Constitution, one of the rights that we have as citizens of the state of Arkansas is for initiatives, right? Okay. Are they making it more difficult for us to have initiatives or have petitions, citizen-led initiatives?
They're trying to basically, I mean, it's so blatant.
Yeah.
That's the only reason to have those is to stop, is to slow down the petitioning. And I guess if it's something that is a popular establishment situation, they could say it's okay. I mean, so um, yeah, they're bad. They're a bad deal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to look at this and say, and that's why I was so against these bills. I'm still against these bills. But unfortunately,
They're happening.
if you want to say the cake was already baked, probably before this even started, that you can say that. But you got these, and the reason that I'm disappointed in Senator Hammer is that he's presented these bills, ran these bills. These bills have been passed. He fought for these bills. Are these bills making it easier for a citizen-led initiative, or are they taking away our freedom to be able to do it?
No, it's
It's going to be the last. Okay. And then you look at,
I know that I have, you've collected signatures before, I've canvassed before, and sometimes it's hard enough to get people, even if they believe in it, it's hard enough to get them to sign it anyway. Sometimes either they don't trust you, that they're worried about getting tricked into something and all that. So, I always explain the bill to them, but they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait around. They don't have time. It's going to be a 15-minute process per person, the way they have it now.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at it was 208 where you have to see the driver's license. Okay. Well, I mean, if I went up to a petitioner or a canvasser and I signed your name, okay, then I'm not Keith Kellum, or you signed my name and you're not Randy Sams. There's already rules, there's already codes on the books, Keith, that make that
right
illegal. Okay.
And you're going to get, why are we having to do this? That's what you're going to hear. Why are we having to do this? And I'll be glad to tell them, well, they passed some bills this time. And,
well, are you taking away my right to be able to sign that petition without me having to show? I mean, it's my right as a citizen to sign, right? Okay.
Absolutely. But as long as you're a voter, as long as you're a registered voter,
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're so I look at 207, 208, and 211 as the powder puffs. Okay, I mean them by themselves. Okay, I now got to get a driver's license. I now got to tell you, if you forge somebody's name, it's going to be a Class A misdemeanor. Blah blah blah. Okay, I have to sign a second affidavit in front of somebody else. Okay, those are okay. Powder puffs should never happen, but they did. Now you get into what I call the teeth. The first two are kind of like the appetizers. First three are the appetizers. Now you're getting into the T-bone steak, okay? Because then you come to 209. 209 is what occurred to us in Saline County last year, and I'll explain it. But basically, it says 209 is to disqualify signatures obtained by a canvasser under certain circumstances. And guess who gets to disqualify those signatures?
Secretary of State.
Oh man, Secretary of State gets to do that. Okay,
possibly Secretary Hammer.
Well, he's got his name in the hat. I don't know if anybody else, but here's what happens. It says that preponderance of evidence. If the Secretary of State finds by a preponderance of evidence that the canvasser has violated Arkansas laws. Now, do you know the definition of preponderance of evidence?
Any evidence.
50% plus a feather. 50% plus a feather. So we got a bill that you and I are passionate about, and we're out there, we're working our butts off, and somebody comes up and accuses us of doing something wrong. We didn't get their driver's license. We didn't tell them about the bill. But and the Secretary of State happens to look at the title of that bill and it says hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. I don't want that. So there's probably a 50-50 chance that Keith Kellum did something wrong. So what now? Who has the power to disqualify all those signatures?
And I may be jumping the gun, but is that the one that has the where they're okay. Before, if you had a bad signature, they took that signature out, or if you had a bad information on one,
Yeah, I mean, but that's
where
already
it
on the
throws
books.
out the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to use an example, Keith, okay, if you take the paper ballot initiative we had here in Saline County, we had more than enough signatures, valid Saline County registered voter signatures, and due to the fact that they didn't like the idea of using out-of-state paid canvassers, okay,
Right.
and their argument was the definition of residence, okay. Even though the out-of-state petitioners lived in a hotel for 3 months, 4 months, whatever,
You
that
get
was
in
their
that domicile situation.
well, that could be argued. I think Clint Lancaster did a fantastic job because I went to the trial that they had. Mm-hmm. And by the way, at that trial, guess who was sitting across from me? Mr. Hammer. Okay. Made sure what decision was being made. But here's the bad part. Let's say that it was a valid argument that those canvassers here in Saline County, those paid canvassers, were disqualified because they didn't live here in Saline County. They weren't Arkansas residents. Okay, I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying let's just use that. Here's what I disagree with. Because of that, they disqualified 2,370 valid Saline County registered voter signatures. All right. So what was the remedy for those Saline County registered voters that legitimately signed their names to the petition and legitimately wanted to have an opportunity to at least vote for paper ballots here in Saline County?
And thought they counted, and they thought they counted. They don't notify you that you don't count.
What happens to their voice? What happens to their voice?
Gone.
It's gone. Okay. So now you got a statewide petition. Okay. Just like the abortion amendment, and I hate to keep pounding on that, but whatever amendment you may want to look at, if it's a statewide amendment and the Secretary of State may not be in favor of that amendment or that, petition, and he can say, well, there's a 50-50 chance that all this stuff is wrong, and he throws out 10,000 signatures, throws out 15,000 signatures. Okay. What's the remedy for those 10 or 15,000 registered Arkansas voters that signed their name legitimately to those petitions? There is no remedy.
It probably won't happen.
There is no due process for those people. That's why I was so against these bills. Is that okay? If you want to slap a canvasser on the hand because they did something wrong, then focus on the canvasser. But because the canvasser did something wrong, maybe he didn't ask for an ID or she didn't ask for an ID, whatever it happens to be, you're just automatically going to disqualify, like here in Saline County, 2,370 valid signatures, valid registered voters here in Saline County, because the canvasser didn't happen to live here or whatever.
Well, okay? Number one in 207, the beginning one, that's an intimidation situation. A lot of people, if you mention a misdemeanor or something, if you do something wrong, they don't have to sign that. They're going to go, I don't think I want to do that,
Yeah.
And then the other deal is, if they want to sign that, there's no way for them to come back and see that they didn't sign it. So like you said, you're disenfranchising a lot of folks. And another thing is, and I don't know if they've ever done any canvassing, they act like it kind of looks like they're against petitions, the way they're presenting it. Against the people, but blatantly almost admitting it. And because I know that I've done it some, I haven't done it like a lot of people, but it's a lot of damn work. It takes a lot of time to gather these signatures, and for them just to throw them in the garbage, in the shredder, is a bunch of malarkey.
Well, I think for me to have, and I can't say I would ever be in favor of the bills, but let's just say that I think it would have been a little bit easier to swallow or to accept if there would have been a remedy. Okay, so 209 gives the Secretary of State the sole ability to disqualify signatures, okay, because of something the canvasser did. Okay, what's the remedy? what's the due process for the signatures, the valid signatures on those
Yeah.
petitions? There is none.
They're saying try again next year. That's not adequate.
It's over with. Okay, it's done. So now we run to 210,
Mhm.
and 210 is a joke as far as I'm concerned, because I look at 210 as me standing in front of somebody, and I'm going to use you as an example, Keith. Strictly an example. I don't feel this way about you or anybody else, but I'm going to look at you and say, Keith, you just look too dumb to understand what you're about to sign. So I got to read this bill to you. You understand?
Yeah.
That's what 210 is. It states that I either have to give you the bill and let you read it, or I have to read it to you. Okay.
I've got a question. Do they give a lot of the people in Congress at the federal level the time to actually sit there and read the bill most of the time?
No. What was that big bill that they passed? Where Nancy Pelosi famously said,
Well, they have books.
"You got to pass it first, and you can read it after we pass it." Something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
write books. It's bigger than a
Yeah.
fucking
They're literally
secret
making a law where we have to make someone who's going to put their signature on a piece of paper saying, hey, you got to read this bill and understand it before you even think about it. But then
They're gonna
we can't
lose half.
our own
More than
federal
that.
electives to that sort of standard. What about even our own state representatives? Can we hold them to that standard?
Yeah, that was some of the arguments that were presented in committee, as far as, are you holding yourselves? Because when they go out and
Or when you go to the voting booth, here it is, and it's page after page after page. Nobody. You may have one out of 500 people that will read that bill. There are some people that do, that sit there for 10 or 15 minutes, but normally, you know, I've worked polls. What they want to do is ask you, what's this bill about? Which you can't tell them. You can't say anything. But they want it spoon fed to them. They don't want to, and they'll read the title. And that's why they like to misrepresent titles a lot, because that's all they'll read. And they won't read the catch-22 in the middle of it.
Yeah. And well, and here's what you also have to look at. Do I have a right as a United States citizen to be able to make my own decision if I want to sign a petition or not?
Sure.
If I have the right to decide that I want to read that bill if I want to, or I have the right to decide that I don't want to read the bill. You told me what it was about. I trust you. I'm going to sign it. I mean, the paper ballot initiative, I'm looking at one right now. It's pretty simple. On the top of it, it says signatures for the hand counted paper ballot ordinance of 2024. That's pretty simple, right? That's cut and dry. Okay. So when I was out, I had the actual bill with me, the title and all that. But this
people
bill
know what that's about. Yeah.
Yeah. This bill basically states that you have to read the bill title, not the entire bill,
right?
But the title. Okay. Now, where that came from, Keith and Kevin, is because the people that were so adamantly against the abortion amendment last year, they were accusing the people that were trying to get the abortion amendment on the ballot. They were accusing them of telling people that you're signing for women's health, or
right.
You're signing for less government.
It's not what you think it is. It's not. I like that. It's not what you think it's not what it says.
Yeah, but guess what, guys?
It is.
The Arkansas Constitution, Arkansas Code 7, all of that's already covered. It was already covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a lot of the bills they come out with are meaningless. I mean, there's not. They put bills in out of those 2,000 bills they're going to put through there. More than half of them are probably just repeat.
Well, if I would have been sitting in one of the committees, either the Senate or the House, if I was a senator or a House rep, and those same people were making their arguments, I would have had to ask, then you're making a lot of accusations here. I'm not saying they're not true, but we already have laws and codes on the books. If you're saying all this stuff was egregious last year, all these people were doing this, how many of these people were actually charged with misdemeanors or felonies? How many people were brought before? Zero.
Right.
None. Okay. So that tells me right now, I'm not saying they
start
didn't
doing that,
do
you
it,
got a real problem. You got to start doing that, you got a real problem.
but you got to enforce the rules that are already on the books.
Right.
Okay. So now here's what happens is that the people that are anti-abortion, we are anti-abortion, we are pro-life, But what I'm saying is this: they're having their parties because they're thinking, man, we got them now because the abortion amendment title was like a page and a half long, which means that I was going to have to read it to everybody that showed up if I was on that petition. Okay. Okay. They're not going to, I mean, you take that title and you try to read it, it's going to take you 3.5, 4 minutes to read it.
They're asking what it means. What's that mean?
But all
and
the
then
other
you
stuff
get in.
that
You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to.
But let's say, Keith, here you came to the Saline County State Fair, and you got your family with you. Okay, Kevin's there with you. He got his family with him. Okay, and you got a line of 10 people behind you, and they see me having to read that amendment to you or that bill to you. You think his kids are yanking on his shirt tails saying, "Daddy, where's the cotton candy? Let's go ride and ride." Da 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 da. No, Kevin, you got to wait till I can read this to you. He said, "No, I'll get you when I come back out." No,
exactly what's going to happen. That's
okay,
exactly what's going to happen. Yeah.
So they know.
Some people are adamant about. I mean, when I've collected signatures, you got a group that doesn't want to talk to you at all. That are going to ignore you and walk off, and you leave them alone. You got people who are going to say, "Well, I'll sign it." I've even had people, I'll be honest with you, say, "I'll sign all of them." That's their choice, but that's not very many people. But you do have a lot of people, well, yeah, or I've already signed it somewhere else, or they'll say, yes, I've been looking for one of those to sign. Those are the ones you get excited about because they're easy because they've been looking for somewhere to sign. That's not that many.
Well, but here's what you have to remember, guys. When you sign a petition, are you voting for it? I mean, are you casting a vote?
You're letting the people vote for it.
No.
A petition only means that, just like in here in Saline County last year for the paper ballot, we had to have 6,000 signatures in a short period of time. Okay, we had like 6,500. But those 6,500 people, just because we had 6,500 signatures, that didn't make it law. All those signatures were for is that we had enough signatures and enough people here in Saline County that agreed with that petition and wanted to have an opportunity to go cast my vote for paper ballots, just like people who are against paper ballots could go and cast their vote against it. Okay. And even the abortion amendment. See, here's what I look at. Even though as adamantly as I am or we are against abortion, the abortion people that tried to get that amendment to vote on had every right to do that, correct? As Arkansas or United States citizens, okay?
Yes.
I have enough faith in the citizens of Arkansas that the majority of the citizens here in Arkansas are pro-life versus they are pro-abortion, okay? Yeah. That even if it would have made it to the ballot, I feel like it wouldn't have passed because there would have been more people. But see, nobody was given the right to vote on that for or against because of all the stuff that went on. We in Saline County were not given the right to vote for paper ballots because they said the canvassers weren't residents here, and they threw out almost 2,400 signatures, valid signatures. Okay, that's what's wrong with it. Now and I'm going to say one more thing about this one. Here's where we open up a can of worms, because now it states that you, as a petitioner, you either have to read it to me or you have to let me read it.
Okay? Right.
Now,
one or the other, yeah.
What happens, Keith or Kevin, if I'm out there working my tail off and I've gotten 500 signatures, whatever it happens to be, and you got somebody that is dead set against what I'm for, and they file a complaint against Randy Sams, and they say what? Randy didn't read that bill to me. He didn't read that title to me. What evidence do I have that I did or I didn't?
And to my understanding, when that happens, and it's true, it's going to throw all your signatures out.
Yeah, because 209, what does 209 state? That by preponderance of the evidence.
So that's a quick way to get rid of 2,000. That could be a quick way to get rid of 2,000 or 3,000 signatures.
Or
10,000. Depending on how
many.
I mean, I've never collected that many myself personally, but there's people that do. And that would be their situation.
Yeah. So tell me, how do you validate that you read the title to them or that they read the title? So am I going to start doing group meetings now and have a big speaker behind me? and I'm
Are
gonna
they
push
going to call every one of these people and say, you know, they got their phone number on there? They're going to call them and say, hey, did he read that? Or did you read that? You know?
Well, not only that, throw in a protester. Throw in
Yeah.
someone who gets what you're doing. They're sitting there screaming at you and yelling at you the entire time, and they're like, this is a bill. You suck. No, 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 no. They're gonna start throwing things that you can't even finish.
Right.
Yeah. So,
How is
but
this going to work?
there's no way that you can protect yourself in me stating that I read the bill to you
Wow.
or you read the bill yourself, unless I have another piece of paper that you have to sign stating that either I read it to you or you read it yourself. Okay.
Right.
Or I'm going to have to video every time that I read it to you. Okay. So again, we go back to what I said to begin with. If you look at these bills, especially the first two or three, they kind of seem like a powder puff. But when you add all of them together and you put them as a package deal, you can see that these bills, as they progressively move along, they make it more and more difficult, making it almost impossible for those of us who believe in the initiative process, that believe that the citizens of the state of Arkansas should be able to participate in politics or legislation, okay, whether we're for it or against it. But this makes it almost impossible, okay, because it makes it more and more difficult to do this. So, you know, that's those bills. Luckily,
And you got the granddaddy of them all, the one that all he you know, we were talking about his progression of this is a little more serious than this one. Then we come to 212, which you're going to talk about, which didn't pass because he went way overreach on this one, in my opinion, and to most people, way overboard. So we got all these leading up to this big daddy that's going to enforce all this stuff.
yeah,
Hit that one.
he was going to have his own police force, okay.
Yes.
His own
212, SB 212.
Yeah, and that, well, luckily both times,
DVD. What was it? Did the
Division of Document Verification or whatever, DDV
whole
or whatever, something
with
like that.
full law enforcement, with, from what I understand, unless I read it wrong, full law enforcement rights. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what's ridiculous about it, because you guys both know that if you to be able to be a fully licensed law enforcement person, I have to do what? I have to have the education, right?
I think
I
they
have to
said
have the
I think
training.
that's part of it, though.
You know, well, but he kept harping about the fact, and they had a couple of Secretary of State people there with him, that it wasn't going to cost the public, the Arkansas citizens, any additional money. That
Right.
they already had the staff to do this. Okay, well, now you're going to take those staff away and get them trained to be policemen. You know, it's kind of like Biden and his 85,000 IRS agents that he was going to hire and give them guns. So
You're getting towards a jackboot type, situation. Yeah, I mean, we don't need all that. We got enough law enforcement agencies in this country right now.
Well, that was that was the one that was kind of ridiculous. I mean, all of them. But now I'm running for Secretary of State. I'm making it almost impossible for the citizens of the state of Arkansas to have a citizen-led initiative. And now, on top of all this, if there's something that I don't like, me as Secretary of State, I can say, well, there's a 50-50 chance that it was wrong, so I'm going to throw out all these signatures or however many I want to. That gives me the right to do that as Secretary of State. And on top of that, now I've got my own police force. I'm gonna send those jackboots to Keith Kellum's door at 2:00 in the morning, knock on your door and say, hey, we got you with a petition fraud, canvasser fraud, not reading this, you broke this bill.
You're going to jail. You're going to jail for it.
Class
Number
B.
one, you won't get anybody anymore. Well, not anybody, but you'll cut down a lot of people that would do canvassing that wouldn't because of afraid of backlash. And then you would get people who don't want to sign because of backlash. Because the way they read, you can get the guy, the canvasser, or the petitioner, either one.
Yeah. Well, again, the folks that spoke in favor of the Hammer bills, I didn't hear just a normal person like an attorney or whatever. Most of them were women, men and women that did the anti-abortion, that were against the abortion amendment last year, okay, or petition last year. And I'm sure that when all these bills got passed, they were excited. They were happy. Okay. But here's what they don't realize, that yes, you may have made it almost impossible for the abortion people to ever run another initiative like they did last year. Okay. You may have won the battle, but you lost the war because you also made it almost impossible for
You
me,
can't.
or Keith, or Kevin, or anybody else on here watching tonight. You made it almost impossible for any of us to run a pro-life bill, to run a paper ballots bill, to run a let's lower the library millage, whatever it happens to be. You
Which
make
is
it
one that
almost
needs to come
impossible.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
In the event that a Democrat takes over our government and we switch over to the other side, it's all us against the Democrats. Now we have no way to fight against them this way.
Well, I mean, let's
They
put the
think they're going to stay in power this entire time.
These
And
are
all-
bipartisan. These are bipartisan
yeah.
things.
I mean, that's a great point, Kevin, because here's what you got to realize. You guys understand that we like to say that Arkansas is red. Well, we've been involved in enough politics here over the last 3 or 4 years to understand that it ain't red. It's more of a purple. Okay.
Mhm.
There's a lot of purple in there.
Yes.
So what you got to look at, Kevin, is just like what you said. What happens in 10 years if the Secretary of State is actually a Democrat?
Exactly.
What happens if the governor's a Democrat and they are pro-abortion? And they start changing all the amendments and all the laws to where Arkansas now becomes an abortion state. Now, what's going to happen to these people that were for all these amendments or these hammer bills this year? Are they going to remember, oh man, if I hadn't have done that 10 years ago? Because now they're going to want to try to get some pro-life bills, amendments, initiatives started. But because of
All
what they did
kinds of
10
stuff,
years
yeah.
ago, because of their help pass the hammer bills, it's going to make it almost impossible for them to do the same thing. So just because you think you won the battle, I say you lost the war right here today, because you helped take away a lot.
They're
of
not
rights
looking at
for
the
citizens.
big picture for sure. They're not looking at in the future. They're looking at right now in the 26 election, what they're looking at in 28 maybe. But you know, that's what that's all about. So, and then he's what was that other one he had? SB. Oh,
Well,
we get on the trucking bill. Let's get on
yeah,
that.
we've got a couple of bills that we want to talk about.
Okay.
One of them is HB 1745, and the other is HB 1569. Okay, we'll hit HB 1745 first, because that is a bill that is sponsored by R.J. Hawk, who is a Saline County rep, and it's also sponsored by, guess who? Kim Hammer.
Kim Hammer.
Okay. And what these bills are about, and I would encourage those of you who are listening to go to arcleg.gov, look them up. There's a section at the very top where you put in the bill, and it'll search, and you can print it off. But it's
What bill are we looking up right now?
It's HB 1745.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. And then the next one is HB 1569. But if you'll print those off yourself and you can look at those, you can kind of see. But here's kind of what they're all about. So these bills are focused on truck drivers. Uh-oh. There you go. Okay. And that's 1745 to require, now see that word certain? To require certain commercial driver licenses holders to possess a United States work authorization. All right. So what these bills came about is that back in September of 2023, there was it was called the Biden-Harris Trucking Action Plan, September 2023, which basically dumped almost 800,000. They were saying there wasn't enough truck drivers. It dumped over 800,000 drivers into the system for CDLs, made it easier for people to get their CDLs. And unfortunately, through that, I'm going to say the majority of those 800,000 plus drivers were not U.S. citizens. Okay, they were foreign nationals. They were illegals. Some of them were 18 years old, but female, that's fine. But what has happened is that over the years, we've had drivers that are here in the United States that are not they do not have a commercial driver's license, a United States issued driver's license. Okay.
Right.
Which means that they don't go through the same qualifications that our American truck drivers do. Okay. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there that don't speak English. They can't read English. So if they get pulled over by a law enforcement officer, say Arkansas State Police or the Highway Police or Saline County Sheriff or Faulkner County Sheriff or whatever, and they come out of the truck with with headphones on, and they've got a translator app on their phone, they can't speak English. So if they can't speak English, they can't communicate, Keith. How can they read the signs on the interstate?
Yeah.
They can't, can they?
And how much training have they really had?
That's the whole deal. They've got a non-domiciled CDL, but
and you don't just jump in one of those rigs and take off. That's not the way that.
That's an 80,000-pound weapon, guys.
Yeah,
that's an 80,000-pound weapon. Okay, you can't stop a Peterbilt, okay, or a Kenworth like you can a Porsche.
No.
Okay, you can't, or a Corvette. All right. Once one of those things get going, it's almost you're going to have some space for it to slow down. But when you look at 1745, and again 1745, I'm actually going to state that bill was probably put together by the Arkansas Truckers Association. Okay,
no doubt, yeah.
Because the Arkansas Truckers Association, whether we want to admit it or not, they're not for your average trucker. They're not for the medium-sized trucking company.
They don't. They have their donors to all those guys. They're lobby. They have a big lobby, and the American Truckers Association, is part of that. So it's a national. It's a money thing.
Yeah, the Arkansas Truckers Association is a lobbyist group for the truckers. They should be, okay. But what has happened is that when you talk to people and you ask them, are they, and these are guys that have been in the trucking industry for many, many years, okay, decades. Are you aware that you have non-domiciled, non-CDL drivers running up and down the interstate driving these big rigs? And they'll go, no. Okay. So anyway, this has been raised. The flag's been raised. The spotlight has been put on this by one of our good friends, Mr. Shannon Everett. Okay. He's an expert in the trucking industry. He's been in it for probably 25, 30 years. Owned his own business, is now partners with another larger firm. But he's behind all this and with all this and kind of put all this together. But to kind of combat what Shannon has put together, and we'll talk about this in just a little bit, they came up with 1745, and really 1745 has no teeth. It basically states that, hey, if you're here and you have a work permit, a work authorization, an employment authorization,
it doesn't change much.
No, it doesn't change much. And they talks about being able to, if it's been issued by a state, territory, United States, District Columbia, you go on and on and on.
I believe it includes Canada and Mexico too.
Yeah, it does, and so does the other one. But if you've got a fake one, or it's not, you don't know you have it, it's unknowing. The thing is, the punishment is, it can be if you're a false foreign commercial driver license, it can be a Class D felony. Which, if you guys know any about Class D felonies, that is the least serious of felony charges, right. Felony crimes. Okay, but if you read the bill, it basically allows, what's scary is on the final page when it talks to reciprocity. So there was a law that was passed that Arkansas will accept CDLs issued from other states. Okay. Right. But what's happening, Keith, is that you've got these other states that are allowing illegals. Okay. That are allowing drivers from Canada. They're allowing drivers from Uzbekistan.
I think Texas is one of the states too.
Okay. Oregon is a big one. When you look at a very liberal state, what mm-hmm. took place in Oregon when they had took over okay. But reciprocity was is that we're going to allow your Oregon drivers with an Oregon CDL, United States citizens, okay, to drive through Arkansas with that CDL, and you're going to allow our Arkansas drivers to do the same.
Not knowing what they require. They may require nothing. So
Well,
you don't know what you're getting, you know?
When the reciprocity rules went into place, it was basically knowing that those drivers coming from Oregon are going to be U.S. citizens with a U.S. citizen issue, a U.S. CDL. But Oregon has now jumped into it, and they're allowing non-domiciled learners permits now. Okay. And those guys are driving through Arkansas. That wasn't what the reciprocity laws or agreements was all about. Okay. Arkansas has not broken those. Oregon has broken those. And I'm just using them as an example. You can pick any other state you
want. But Oregon drivers are going to drive through Arkansas all the time.
Yeah, but that's what you got to look at. What scares you is that it talks about commercial driver's license or a commercial learner's permit issued by Canada, Mexico, or any other jurisdiction under a waiver of exemption. Okay. Do you want someone driving an 80,000-pound Mack truck up and down the interstate with a learner's permit? Okay. I don't.
Well, it's already killed a lot of people. It's already killed a lot of people.
And that's why I laugh when I see this bill at an attempt, because I'll use it as the example again. It's one of these type deals where the Arkansas Truckers Association is saying, hey, look what we're doing. But that bill has no teeth. It says nothing about what happens if the driver behind that 18-wheeler can't speak English or can't read English, okay? Or what happens if they have a non-domiciled learner's permit, okay? There's nothing like that. It's very, very little recourse as far as there's no charges, no jail time. But the big one is the one that is a really great bill is HB 1569, okay? And that is being sponsored by House Rep Long and co-sponsored by Senator Payton. Okay, two good guys. But basically, HB 1569 it's basically to create the Secure Roads and Safe Trucking Act of 2025 to amend the law concerning commercial drivers to create penalties and offenses committed while operating a commercial motor vehicle and for it to become an emergency. Okay, which basically means that if it gets passed and the governor signs it, it goes into effect immediately. Okay. But this bill is about 6 pages long. We probably don't have enough time to go over a lot of it, but here's what the discovery is. So in Colorado, there was a gentleman that lost his life because the gentleman that was driving the 18-wheeler was an illegal alien, and he was driving too fast down a hill, ran into the guy, killed him. The guy was a truck driver that got killed. Okay. Guess what happened to that driver? He had been deported 16 times. He had been deported 16 times and boom, was inside of a 18-wheeler. Okay. Here in Arkansas, in Logan County, you had a gentleman that I don't know if the driver, which again was non-domiciled, was an illegal alien. I don't know I can't remember what kind of truck he was driving, but it was an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And he was driving too fast and ran into a guy and killed him also. Okay. They only charged that young man with a misdemeanor. Okay. If that would have been an American or an Arkansas truck driver, citizen truck driver with a CDL, they would have probably charged him with vehicular manslaughter. Okay. Operating probably wasn't doing right.
Now they need to do with our new administration. They need to kick him out, send him back, and penal, do the full penalty of.
Well, the good thing about HB 1569 is if you take the time to look through it, this bill has some teeth. Okay. Yeah. It basically states that you got to be able to have a government issued CDL from the United States. You got to be able to speak proficient English. Okay. I mean, here's what's crazy, Keith. Did you know that air traffic controllers around the world, not just here in the United States, but around the world, have to be able to speak English?
Yeah, it's a universal. Yeah, it's their universal language. Yeah.
Why shouldn't we have the same thing for the trucking industry?
Probably because we have the most flights that are going around the world. We go everywhere, and we just dominate the air.
Well, there's more people killed because of big truck accidents than there are airplane accidents.
Oh, absolutely. Just
Okay.
like there's more people killed in cars than there are airplanes.
Yeah, so if
Per capita, even per capita, not just.
Yep.
I know there's more cars than there are airplanes, probably, but per capita, it's still not as safe in a car.
Yeah, so you can't, if you know what a B1 or a B2 visa holders are, if you're a B1, if you're here on a B1 visa, you're basically just here for like a short business trip. You came in from Europe, you came in from wherever it was at a business meeting or whatever. Okay, a B2 visa is basically a tourism. You're here on vacation, or you're here to visit friends and family. But a B1 or a B2 visa does not give you the right or the ability to actually be employed to get a job. Okay. And so that's what happens. So if a motor carrier, someone who owns a trucking company, if they hire some of those people, if they put them to work, they shall not employ the account contract a holder of B1, B2, visas. If they do, there are penalties. The commercial guy can be fined. I think it's up to $10,000. No, $5,000. But if the B1 driver, if they find them, then if it's the Arkansas State Police, they can impound the vehicle. Okay. The other bill has no teeth whatsoever.
Right. They just keep driving like they're doing now.
Yeah, and that's the
I mean,
thing.
they stop them now. They can't hold them. They tell them not to hold them. I've heard that they can't because of federal, I don't know, something.
Well, I mean, you have to be able to, we have reciprocity. We understand that, but reciprocity has to be the fact. It's got to be understood that whether you're coming from Texas, whether you're coming from Florida, whether you're coming from Washington State, whether you come from Oregon, whether you're coming from California, you have to have a valid United States issued CDL, and
it's not too much to ask either.
And you have to be able to speak English. You have to be proficient in the language to be able to understand and communicate with people, right? That's not too much to ask. So, I mean, there's a lot to this bill, Keith. I know, you've got some time limits here, but
that one is still not gone to committee, correct? 1569 or neither one of those bills.
They just added I think the final amendment this week, and apparently when I spoke to Shannon, the plan is that it will probably be heard on Tuesday, and that will be the Transportation Committee. And the Transportation Committee, that their I don't know what you want to call it, their hearing room, okay, where they meet is at the Big Mac building. It's not in the Capitol, it's in the Big Mac building. Okay.
I tell you what, if people listening, if you're, you don't have to be a truck driver, but especially truck drivers who are listening to this, and this all concerns them like it does Shannon, who's been in the business for years. If I was a truck driver, it sure would concern me. I mean, it concerns me now, but really, if it was my living, head down to the Capitol on Tuesday, speak against it. Anybody can speak against it, and any trucker would be very valid. That's coming from the horse's mouth when it comes from a trucker.
Well, what we've got, if your listeners, if you will, like I said, look at HB 1745, and then look at HB 1569, and you do your comparison. But here's the thing: we have American truck drivers that have been driving those vehicles for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, okay, and they've done a fantastic job. Now you've got illegals coming in here, these non-domiciled people that are coming in here, and when they get dumped on there, it's called wage dumping. So you've got an American truck driver that is driving 5 days a week away from their family, and they're making $1,200 a week. Okay. It's enough to be able to support your family, but you're going 5 days a week. Okay. Now you've got these folks coming in here from Uzbekistan or Pakistan or wherever. All right. And they're driving the same vehicles, and they're doing it for $500 a week.
And that's the key to the whole thing.
There you go. And guess who's keeping the difference? Do you think the large trucking companies that are employing these illegals, these non-domiciled people, do you think the trucking companies are passing that back to the other drivers? No, they're keeping it. they're keeping it in their back
saving
pocket.
the money, which,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm for saving money in a business. If you're running a business, you want to do the best you can, but hey, don't do it unethical and illegal and things. You know, well, it's not illegal right now, but it is unethical.
Well, with this bill and with the momentum that this bill is gathering, not just here in the state but nationwide, eyes are being opened up, because until Shannon and I spoke about this, 6, 7, 8 months ago, I wasn't aware of this. You probably weren't.
I wasn't either. No.
Okay.
No.
Like I said earlier, people that have been in the trucking industry for many years were not aware this is going on. Now people are waking up to the realization that if an American citizen truck driver with a CDL kills a family because of negligence, something that they did wrong, they're going to be charged with manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter. Okay. They could spend up to 10 years in prison or longer. But what's happening, as soon as these they can't speak English, they're non-domiciled people, they're being told to let them go. They can't do anything with them, whether it be the highway police or the state police or local police. They can't do anything with them. And
they don't even find the company. They don't even find the driver, the company they're driving for, or anything.
Yeah, that's the whole deal. They don't impound the vehicle. They don't do anything. And this is it, is that that guy disappears.
I mean,
Okay?
they gotta have something in writing to where it's not worth their time to fool with illegals that don't have proper license. Yeah, that's where it's got to be. It is where it's not worth their savings, which right now it is. Yeah. You
know, I just find it difficult, and really, it's going to be, if everybody keeps their eyes open. HB 1569, in my opinion, if you read it, is a fantastic bill. It protects the citizens of the state of Arkansas. Okay. It protects the companies that are doing business the right way. And it basically takes away this wage dumping, and it protects us. If you look at 1569, I'm really looking forward to seeing who's going to stand up against this bill.
Because it's been well investigated. It's been well investigated.
Oh,
it's been had a lot of time put into it. Whereas this other bill is just like, oh, we're just putting this in to counteract the other one. So, there's been, I know, we all know personally, there's been a lot of thought into that bill.
Yeah. And so, I can't wait to see when this bill is presented and hear the arguments, those that are for, and then who's going to be brave enough to sit up and state that they're against 1569 when you read 1569 and you see the protections that it provides you and me as Arkansas citizens, and the companies that are in the trucking business.
And I can't say that I'm sure. Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
I just like to hear their arguments against it.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting. And I don't know how they're going to try to justify it. Really, I mean,
well, they'll come up with something. Just like Senator Hammer came up with justification for SB 207 through SB 212. Whether it was justification in his own eyes, but to you and me, nothing that he could say would justify those bills. Okay. And nothing that I can see justifies HB 1745. HB 1569 is a fantastic bill, and I'm glad that Representative Long jumped on it.
If you're for our sovereignty, our border closings, our border security, I don't see any way that you can say you're for that and vote for 1745.
True. Yeah.
I mean, you're a hypocrite if you're saying that, because it exactly addresses illegal immigration. I mean,
1745 has no teeth. It doesn't do anything more than what's being done right now, except that, if they're able to see that it's a fake driver's license, then we can
one or two things. Yeah. Okay. One or two things are in there that are not going to be, which is not the problem. Yeah, well, it is the problem, but it's still going to go by the wayside.
Download both the bills, put them side by side, read them, and you tell me which one has the teeth, which one is actually going to protect you and me. Okay. So, and here's the thing, you know what, and I'll close with this, the FMSCA, you know what that is?
SMS, not right off the bat.
The FMCSA, that is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. I'm going to read this. This is from one of their sites. The FMCSA mission is to prevent crashes, fatalities, and injuries involving commercial trucks and buses. FMCSA develops safety and regulatory standards for commercial drivers, licenses, analysis data, or analyzes data, and sponsors research and promotes enforcement and education. Now, read those two bills, and you tell me which one most mirrors that statement right there.
Quick question, if you know, what if both of them pass?
I mean,
does one override the other? I don't know.
No, because they're two different bills. I mean, they could both pass. Okay.
They kind of contradict each other, but
well, I mean, they both address, CDL drivers, but I like the terminology when I say like. I laughed at it when I read it. It's an act to require certain commercial drivers, certain, not all of them, just
wide
certain.
open.
Just certain of them. Just certain of them.
They like to keep it wide open where they can play with it, right?
What's the definition of certain? What's the definition of is?
Well, we about run out of time, but I do want everybody to, if you're interested in learning more, I go to United Truckers of America. What is that the name of the
American Truckers United?
American Truckers
United.
And there's a lot of information on this subject and what's going on and the bad things about what's going on with our transportation and all that. So there's a lot of that going on, and it's good. A lot of good information. It's a good site. You can even contribute on it. You can join it, sign on to it, or what have you to help the cause. Because if this is one of those things you're either for or against. I think. I mean, I don't see a gray area here.
No,
myself. But and also I want to plug Arkansas First News. You can contact us at salinehardliners@gmail.com. And then there's Arkansas First News on Facebook. And then there's a website too. I don't know.
We're on all the social medias. We're on X. We're on Facebook. We're on, what else are we on? Actually, no, we're on that. But yeah,
I don't know if Randy,
we're on there.
Yep. I don't know if Randy wants to give his address and his phone number so you can come see him or not. But if he does, he can, but he probably doesn't.
I'm on Facebook. You can look me up. You can look me up on
and
Facebook. Send me a direct message or whatever. We're good. But if you want to get a lot more, if you look at X, if you subscribe to X, which is the old Twitter, Arkansas Truckers, United on X, there's a lot of stories that pertain why this bill is so important. A lot of stories.
Absolutely, yes.
From all over the United States.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so catch us on Thursday nights at 8:00 live, and it's recorded. You want to go back and look at it, and we're at salinehardliners@gmail.com if you want to send us an email. So, Randy, thanks so much for coming on and enlightening us on some of these bills, enlightening the folks out there, because everything's in full swing now.
Yes, sir.
We need to get on board with Trump. We get in the Trump train. This stuff ain't on the Trump train. This is not stuff.
Yeah, there's going to have to be some local guys who are going to have to get on the Trump agenda.
Right. That's right.
They should. Yeah.
So, speaking of guys, if we got some local guys want to run against Kim Hammer, we'd be glad to have you on the show. We will hype you up as best we can.
Well, and Kim Hammer's open seat that's going to be coming open, at the end of 26. So
yeah, it's open.
Yeah.
Anybody will run for. Anyway, I guess that'll be it for tonight. So Saline County is out of here.
Appreciate you guys.